sort of understand the basics of carbon as an element in the universe and on Earth. So what is carbon and where did it come from? Well, this is like many stories of phenomenon on Earth and whatnot. This is a story that really starts in the universe and the origins of all of the elements that comprise the physical and biological dimensions of the world as we know it. So the origins of carbon on Earth, carbon is formed by nuclear processes in stars and similar phenomenon. So this actually occurs when 3 helium atoms combine to form a carbon atom with 6 neutrons, 6 protons, and 6 electrons. And during this process, energy is released. And you can see here in the graph the relative abundance of various elements, with carbon being essentially the 4th most abundant atom in the universe behind hydrogen, helium, and oxygen. And when we think about Earth specifically, carbon is the 15th most abundant element in Earth's crust. So once carbon's formed, it's delivered and shot across the galaxy through a variety of means, including all the sort of planetesimals, dust, and accreting bodies that we think about in the cosmosphere. And this is one of the major ways that carbon moves around. So carbon isn't created on Earth, but rather is something that is delivered to the Earth through a variety of means, similar to the rest of the universe. So what are the forms of carbon? Well, there are 2 stable isotopes of carbon, carbon-12, which has 6 protons and 6 neutrons, and of course this constitutes almost 99% of the carbon that exists. But another stable isotope is carbon-13, which has 6 protons and 7 neutrons, and this here it makes up the majority of the remaining amount of carbon that exists. There are, however, 2 major carbon isotopes that are unstable, that also exist, at least to a degree that we recognize them, and those include carbon-14, which has 6 protons and 8 neutrons, and this actually returns to a form of nitrogen via beta decay over time. Of course, many of us may be familiar with carbon-14 as a way of engaging in radiocarbon dating, because the decay of carbon-14, because it follows a predictable timeline, we can actually gauge half-life or the age of certain materials based on the amount of carbon-14 that are in them. So while this isn't the focus of this particular workshop, this is certainly one notable feature of carbon that many of us are likely already familiar with. So why is carbon special? Well, certainly one of the main reasons that it's special and does a lot of really interesting things is because of its electron configuration. So it has 6 total electrons, 2 of which fill the inner shell and 4 in the outer second shell. Of course, the outer shell is full when it has 8 electrons. So essentially, carbon's outer shell of electrons is only half full, and because of that, carbon is very much seeking other atoms to form bonds with, and so carbon will form covalent bonds with other atoms to fill its second shell, and of course, because it has 4 empty spots, basically that means carbon can typically form 4 bonds with 4 additional atoms around it. And carbon, as a result of this characteristic, carbon can form large chains or rings of molecules by bonding with other carbon atoms, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. And of course, this helps us understand one of the molecules that we're particularly interested in for this workshop here, which is carbon dioxide or CO2. And so really this is one of the really key pieces about carbon that's important to understand, is that it has a capacity